The biology students of Dean Eichhorn in Langley, British Columbia, are actively engaged in their unit on the heart.
I think that most biology instruction all over North America and probably most of the rest of the world goes on by lecture. The teacher stands at the front of the classroom and gives notes upon notes upon notes to the students who dutifully copy it down and then regurgitate it on a test. But my idea of an ideal classroom has always been beyond that. I prefer to have my students as active learners rather than passive learners. And the technology allows them to become more involved in their learning, do things for themselves, as opposed to having me spoon-feed it to them all the time.
The students use a study guide which leads them through various activities, including checking their blood pressure and heart rate.
Oh, I died there for a second.
And using a computer simulation of the body called Artie Hartman.
All the way to the left is normal, and then you can increase the relative radius of the vessel as you drag the cursor to the right. Okay, so that's a very...
And so that's really bad.
Yeah, that's called arterial stenosis when an artery is blocked like that, and that's very bad.
Hearing impaired students are given special help.
So have you actually written it down?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so can I get Secretary Ryan to turn it over for a minute?
To work harder.
Okay, so...
We haven't written it, but we predicted it.
Yes. It's fairly important that you articulate it in words, like actually finalize your prediction before you go ahead and test it.
The hearing impaired students react to the powerful experience of beginning a class that utilizes computer simulations.
At first, in the beginning of the year, I felt a little awkward because I wasn't really used to it. I was more used to lecturing classes where you take notes. But now I really like this a lot more. It's a lot more hands-on learning, and I feel like I learn a lot quicker. And there's a lot of new jobs now that you need computer experience. I think it'll help. I think it helps because you're learning about how to use a computer, and you're finding a lot of different programs. And also, it's interesting because you're learning faster because you're more interested in learning. And it's also fun because you can see what happens to the man when there's more blood or less blood, and what happens.
I work with the students in a different way than a traditional teacher does. The diversity of technology, particularly for this unit, is fantastic. We've got MBL labs where the students can check their heart rate and measure their fitness level. We've got simulations where they can take a simulated person and do things that you wouldn't do to a normal person, like cut an artery and see how blood loss affects the heart rate. We can narrow a coronary artery and see how that affects the heart rate. They can give the person a simulated heart attack. These are things that we, of course, normally can't do, and yet they are known to increase the students' understanding of the concepts that they're working with.
We're able to get this guy to do whatever we want and watch his heart, his actual heart, and his blood pressure too. You'd have to see a guy's heart to do that, so this enables you to monitor those things.
When you're up at the front of the room, just lecturing to them all the time, whether or not the understanding is there, you really don't find until you mark that test at the end. But I find teaching the students this way, working with them more individually or in small groups, I get a pretty good idea of what they know and don't know just from interacting with them during the class time. And I'm convinced that this is working. The students are learning, and they're certainly proving it on their unit tests. They're doing very well on their tests.